Hello my fellow snail sufferers, it's that missile guy again. I have an interesting topic that I've been thinking about lately and decided I should make a video on it. Today we'll be discussing the Super Hornet top tier problem and if the Aim-174B would be a fix for the issue or if it would be too strong for the current meta of War Thunder. Before we get into the video, I just want to give a disclaimer. I will be diving into the history of this missile, how it was created, theoretical specs of the missile, but I could very well get things wrong. I will also be looking at the benefits of the missile if it were added in today's game, but also the issues if it were added, such as if it would be OP. I will do my best to keep the arguments between it being OP and why it may not be OP fair. This missile was also heavily requested in my Obscure Fox 3 video, however I already had this video planned and in the works, so here we are. Anyways, as always, if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your opinion. We are only 38 subscribers from 2,000. That number is insane to me, and I want to thank you all for the support you show on this channel. I never thought I would hit 2,000 subs. This is a huge milestone for me. Thank you all. So, what is the Aim-174B? The Aim-174, officially designated the Gunslinger, is the air-launched variant of the RAM-174B standard extended range missile, or also known as ERAM for short, or more commonly known as the SM-6. The Aim-174B represents a significant evolution for the US aerial arsenal, adapting this proven naval missile for air-to-air combat roles. The Gunslinger is essentially the SM-6 missile body without the Mark 72 rocket booster used in surface launches. This modification allows it to be carried by aircraft, primarily the US Navy's F-18E and F Super Hornets. I will note that I am aware this missile is being tested on other platforms, but we will be focusing on the Super Hornets in this video. By leveraging the launching aircraft's altitude and speed, the Aim-174B can achieve extreme ranges, estimated between 300 to 400 kilometers, which makes it one of the longest range air-to-air missiles currently in service. The missile retains the SM-6 active radar homing seeker derived from the AIM-120C AMRAAM, but has been enlarged for enhanced performance and even more reliable tracking. Operationally, the AIM-174 was developed as a special access program, similar to the AIM-260 JADM, and its existence was only officially confirmed in mid-2024. The Gunslinger fills a critical gap in the US naval aviation, providing a long-range air-to-air capability not seen since the retirement of the AIM-54 in 2004 or 2005, whenever you want to consider it. So how would the 174 help the Super Hornet? Well, let's look at the core issue in the current game. The F-18 Super Hornet's core problem in War Thunder comes down to its slower speed. Planes like the Eurofighter, Rafale, and the Su-30 severely outrange the Hornet simply due to speed. This has forced the Super Hornet to be more of a brawler. It gets 10 AMRAAMs and can be a huge help to the team if flown right, but it's stuck to much closer range engagements. The Aim-174 would fundamentally fix the Super Hornet's core problem in War Thunder by completely flipping that brawler close-range energy behavior on its head. The SM-6, with its estimated range of 200 to 400 kilometers and its Mach 3.5 rated speeds, completely negates the speed disadvantage, allowing the Hornet to effectively strike at much farther ranges than it currently can. In game terms, this would heavily shift the Super Hornet's role dramatically. Instead of trying to outrun or force close-up fights against much faster opponents, it becomes a dedicated missile truck capable of area denial. A typical loadout could be 4 AIM-174s, AIM-120Ds, and 2 AIM-9Ms. However, this solution comes with significant balance implications, which we will be discussing in the next section. While I believe the AIM-174 will solve the problem with the Super Hornets, the AIM-174 is one hell of a missile. The range is so extreme that it could make the Super Hornet frustratingly overpowered, allowing it to score kills with very minimal risk or counterplay. Remember the F-14A when it was released? There was no competition. There was no competition against the AIM-54s. You were forced to the deck? Imagine that, but with a better seeker and even more range. That's just overpowered. The most glaring issue is map scale. The AIM-174 is designed for engagements at ranges exceeding 250 kilometers or 150 plus miles. In War Thunder, even the largest air maps are typically under 100 kilometers across. A Super Hornet armed with the 174 could theoretically launch from its own airfield and hit targets spawning on the opposite side of the map with zero risk of retaliation. This eliminates the beyond visual range aspect of combat for the Hornet, as there is basically no risk for it whatsoever. This also renders positioning, energy management, and even takeoff strategy almost meaningless. The missile effectively makes every map feel like a tiny confined box. Secondly, the missile seeker technology presents a significant simulation challenge. The 174B inherits the advanced dual seeker from the SM-6, combining a semi-active homing guidance system for mid-course flight with an active radar seeker for terminal phase. This active seeker is a significant upgrade over the one found in the 120C, offering better resistance to ECM and chaff, and improved target discrimination. Modeling this level of sophistication, especially its ability to be networked with off-board targeting data, would be a monumental task for the devs. This missile is hands down a generational leap beyond the Fox series we see in-game. Until we see the addition of the R-37M, I don't think there really is a way to add this, but we're gonna go with the hypothetical anyways. How could Gaijin make this missile counterable and or fair? To make the AIM-174 a balanced, which is hard to say, counterable addition, Gaijin would need to lean into its real-world limitations and leverage existing game mechanics to create a high-risk, high-reward weapon system. The solution isn't a nerf to the missile stats, but make its drawbacks as pronounced as its strengths. First, the most critical counter is the missile's own physical characteristics. The AIM-174 is absolutely massive, weighing over 1,500 kilograms and measuring over 6.5 meters long. This makes it a massive target in mid-course guidance and terminal phase. Gaijin could model this by giving the missile a slightly nerfed maneuverability, and due to its much slower speeds, it would be highly susceptible to missile interception by other Fox 3s, which we already see in game by our main missile buses such as the F-15C Golden Eagle and Su-30SMs. Look at this clip right here from DCS. This is from Growling Sidewinders video of AIM-174B versus a MiG-31, but you can see that on his radar and on data link it has its own vector path. It's because the missile is so huge that it comes back as a jet. An opponent who detects a 174 launch could reliably launch a more agile missile to kill the incoming threat before it ever has the chance to reach them. This creates a dynamic where the Super Hornet player must choose their shots carefully, as missed shots can leave them more defenseless, which leads into my next section. Gaijin can address the loadout limitation. A realistic Super Hornet loadout would have a maximum of 4 AIM-174s, likely carried on the inner wing stations, severely impacting the aircraft's performance. This loadout would be coupled with a few shorter range missiles like the AIM-120Ds and AIM-9s. Proper modeling would make the Super Hornet very difficult to fly when the AIM-174s are equipped, making the Super Hornet even slower and less maneuverable than it already is. This forces a strategic choice: bring the long-range firepower but become more of a sitting duck than you already were until the missiles are off, or opt for your less lethal loadout. By combining these elements, high interceptability, severe performance penalties, and maybe even smaller teams, Gaijin could potentially introduce the AIM-174 in a not so overpowered manner, where it becomes a I win button like the AIM-54 did, but more as a strategic situational weapon that fundamentally changes how the Super Hornet is played without making it untouchable. My final thoughts on the topic: the AIM-174 isn't a weapon for current War Thunder meta. I think it's a weapon for the next one. Its introduction should be seen as a milestone, signaling the transition from the existing top tier to a new, more extreme era of aerial combat within War Thunder. Adding it now in an environment dominated by AIM-120s and R-77s and Micas would be like introducing a battleship to a destroyer fight. It would be unbalanced in a lot of areas and hard to balance once again. The AIM-174 belongs in a world where other missiles that can counter exist. It should arrive alongside the true next generation of Fox 3s, such as the AIM-120D-3, the Meteor, China's PL-15, and other missiles of that sort. In this environment, the 174 would be a lot more balanced, as it would no longer be an outlier. It would be the logical answer for American jets for a long-range standoff capability. The game implications would be massive. It would force Gaijin's hand on implementing the long-awaited larger maps, as the current ones will be completely obsolete. In my opinion, the AIM-174 is the perfect capstone for the Super Hornet's career in War Thunder. It solves the aircraft's terminal obsolescence by giving it a unique and powerful role that no other aircraft in the US tree could fill. It is the final boss weapon for a 4.5 generation fighter within America. Its addition, timed correctly with the introduction of its peers and the necessary infrastructure like bigger maps, would be one of the most exciting and transformative updates the game has ever seen. It's not just a good addition, it will become a necessary one for the future health and evolution of top tier battles. Thank you all for watching. I know I discussed a lot of information in this video. Please feel free to drop your opinions down below. I make sure to read every comment. With that being said, if you enjoyed it, ensure you hit that like and sub button, maybe even share with a friend. Also, consider joining the Discord below. We are so close to 2,000 subs, and I once again, I cannot believe we're here, and I cannot thank you guys more. But this was our 60, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out, my fellow War Thunder sufferers.